Hunters come to you each turn to fight for stealth. You must learn. Mimics treasure soon as ours, equipping items, passive powers. Choose your gear to synergize. Build your playstyle, optimize. Careful who you listen to. Darkness waits to prey on you. Observe the ring and strategize. Learn, adapt, or face demise.
For how simple this game is, the trailer did not have to drop those fire bars. Hi everyone, I'm Cab and welcome to my review of Ring of Pain. I first came across this game on Steam through the roguelike section of the store, wanting to find another roguelike to play, as I enjoy the genre very much. Not having heard of this fairly obscure game before, I decided to check out the announcement trailer, which sold me immediately. It appeared to be dark and disturbing, and it piqued my interest. I had to play it. The game is described as a turn-based card crawler roguelike where each level is displayed as a ring of enemies and items that you have to move around in order to reach the exit. You can move left, you can move right,
slide to the right,
attack and stealth past creatures, interact with different objects you come across, and use cooldown and consumable based items. Since it is turn-based, every time you move or attack, the creatures will also move or attack. There are 16 main levels before you reach the end of the game, where you fight in these special boss-like rings. There are also optional paths you can take throughout the way. Some of the alternate paths often reap better loot and rewards at the cost of encountering more dangerous enemies, requiring some preparation beforehand. There are some other unique paths as well, like temporary safe havens and shops to restock on health or useful items. As with any roguelike, the further you get in the game, the more difficult it becomes. Defeat is more than likely to happen. With each dungeon you venture into, you'll meet more dangerous and disturbing creatures in bigger rings. You'll have to learn each enemy's stats and behavior in order to overcome them. Combat is what you'd expect out of a turn-based game. If your speed is higher than the enemy, you get to strike first, and if it's the opposite, vice versa. You might have to pick and choose your fights wisely since you might not have enough health to tank every attack. If you don't choose violence, you can turn around and go the other way, or be daring enough to try and stealth past the creature. Now, of course, to facilitate all this, you get a bunch of inventory slots to fill with items. These items boost your stats or have unique traits. Some give better benefits at a risk. There are 5 main stats to push for. Health, attack, and speed are pretty self-explanatory. Defense reduces the amount of damage you receive, but if it's higher than the incoming damage, there's a chance you'll be able to parry. And if paired with some items, you can reflect damage or even freeze the enemy when you parry. Clarity is a bit of an interesting jack-of-all-trades stat that affects multiple things, like how much health you can recover by drinking potions, or how many souls you get from killing enemies. Souls are the currency for buying items and unlocking chests, and can be used to reroll for items. Most of Ring of Pain's gameplay is just knowing when to fight and flee and where to move, as well as choosing the right items to equip. Strategy is pretty bare bones and doesn't require a lot of effort to conduct due to the pure randomness of the game. That was one of my initial nitpicks of the game, that it felt like it was dictated by RNG and luck, since you're not in control of what items are given to you, or what enemy positions and ring compositions you get. You saved up enough souls to unlock an epic purple chest, reroll a bunch of times hoping to get a better item, only to get an item that is less favorable than you'd hoped. So when you get to the next dungeon, the odds are already stacked against you. But that's the fun of a roguelike, seeing how far you'll get, hoping to get to the end, and while on the way, maybe you'll pick up items you haven't picked up before, and realizing their potent potential, learning a bit more each time. Once you get a particular build going, really get going, the game suddenly becomes a massive power trip as you mow down anything in your way. I've made a couple insane builds before, involving applying tons of poison or petrify to all the enemies in the ring, wiping all of them out swiftly. Suddenly, the annoying crooked loonbird becomes a measly fly, or frog, in your presence. You can turn creatures into cute little frogs. I love this game. Broken builds aside, you're probably going to die often, a fundamental aspect of all roguelikes. It can be annoying to start over and crawl your way back, but thanks to the length of runs, usually lasting from 10 to 30 minutes, it's really convenient to get back to it. If you manage to beat the game multiple times, you'll unlock new candles, which are your starting item that cannot be replaced or thrown away. They have unique traits and abilities that could determine the success of your run from the start, so you'll have to pick wisely. You can also unlock a medium and hard difficulty just in case you wanted a more painful Ring of Pain. It's also worth knowing this game has 138 achievements to earn. Getting these achievements will unlock more item cards that will be added to the item pool in subsequent runs, potentially increasing your chances of winning. And there are hundreds of cards. I still have yet to get all of them. Some of the achievements are really fun to strive for, like beating the game without rerolling items, or beating it only using certain sets of items. They can be tough as nails to get, but being a roguelike masochist, I yearn for this sort of challenge. Overall, the gameplay, while being simple, is tons of fun. The first few runs I thought to myself it was an alright game. A tad bullshit at times. I couldn't see anyone really liking this game. But a good 35 hours or so, or at the time I am making this review, my opinions of this game are the complete opposite. That bullshit randomness is fun. When the right items just so happen to fall into your possession, it can turn the table around. Plus, the whole ring mechanic is so unique. It feels very claustrophobic, as if you're being smushed in between all these creatures that want to kill you. Very fitting with the game's themes. You're forced to pick a direction to move towards, or maybe you bob and weave between the cards, luring enemies to more favorable positions to deliver the killing blow. As I said, the gameplay is very simple and can't get more complicated than this. Still, it's very satisfying to see a chain reaction unfold.
The ring adjusts with every action. Choices cause a chain reaction.
I can't get enough of that trailer. Another notable aspect of Ring of Pain is its art style and atmosphere. The art style is just oozing with personality and vivid colors that makes it all fun to look at, despite being a bit of a dark game. The atmosphere could be best described as uncanny. Some of the amazing enemy designs look unnerving and eldritch to me. It's more disturbing when some of the creatures look more humanoid than others. On the other end of the spectrum, you get creatures that you can hardly discern. What the fuck is a shackles? That thing doesn't have a face. You'll come across some friendly creatures who are able to talk, but given their nature to speak in cryptic riddles, you're not going to get much conversation from them. Good luck making sense of any of it. The game's setting is also not very clear. When you start a run, you just enter the first ring and you go on from there. And since your perspective is fixed on the ring, you never quite get a good look of the surrounding environment. At first, I surmised it was hell or some absurd, otherworldly dimension you are trying to escape, and you are linked to these rings you can't detach from. It doesn't help that most of the lore for this game is given to us by Owl and Shadow, our two friendlies. How convenient. You, the player, has a rather interesting role in the game though. Through some of the dialogue, more of your character is revealed. Ultimately, there is a semblance of a story going on, but what that story is incredibly vague and it's up to your interpretation of what's going on. How did you end up here? What are you trying to accomplish? Who are Owl and Shadow? These very questions you ask the aforementioned characters, but you'll never get a straightforward answer. I guess the ambiguity of it all is just part of the game's charm. You can construct your own headcanon of whatever this place is supposed to be, and it's just as valid an interpretation as any other. The music for Ring of Pain is pretty great, and matches well with its visual themes. Again, I can best describe it as uncanny, as to be expected. Although, some of the other tracks in the game evoke other things in me. The reprieve and companions paths that act like a safe refuge from the deadlier rings plays a somber and melancholic theme. It's actually quite beautiful to listen to. The optional challenging paths like Volatile and Ambush play themes that impose a feeling of trepidation and danger. Most of the game's music is primarily ambient, drawn out but subtle, which I think goes hand in hand with the game's creepiness and methodical turn-based gameplay. Anyway, that's all I have to say for Ring of Pain. The gameplay may be simple, but the whole ring gimmick is a neat little idea. It's difficult at times, but thanks to the way replayability is handled, it's an addicting experience. I'd recommend playing this game if you're looking for a fairly challenging roguelike that is not talked about much. Despite seeming a bit obscure, it's a really polished game, and the art style and gameplay combined really sell it. It definitely deserves a lot more recognition. And that concludes my review. Catch me in the next video. Stay snazzy.